35 cars, 35 laps, and 3 lanes of bumper-to-bumper traffic here at Talladega as the Cooks Landscape Group Cup Series gets ready to go green here in the great state of Alabama on the iRacing Service. I'm Sean Fitz alongside Kevin England. And Kevin, it's going to be a night to remember, I think. Last time here, I think you mentioned 6 cautions. And, well, a lot of folks with a lot of things on the line here. These round of 14 drivers battling for this championship.
Yeah, for sure. You see Donaldson and Bobby Wetzel out front, and that makes an interesting mix for where people are starting tonight and presumably where they're finishing. The favorites don't have a leg up at this racetrack. It's pretty much anybody's game, and if you can get things sorted, you might be able to pull away a victory here tonight. And for the 75 laps, we're going to watch to see who's going to land over there in victory lane at the end of this contest. Should make for a pretty exciting race as we've reset for the point championship. The top cars all equal out now, and the next run, this racetrack, Dover and Phoenix, will take us to the Elite 8 to close out the season championship come November 24th.
If you're the likes of Donaldson, Shieldhouse, Calatoni, these guys, Cody Harris, everybody that has an opportunity here to finish strong, you want to get that finish out of the way right now as we head to Dover and Phoenix here the next couple weeks. But as Kevin mentioned, our top 10, Donaldson, Wetzel, Dalton, Shieldhouse, to Brown, Yoakum, George, Calatoni, Glenn Campbell, and Jose Gonzalez. And Cody Harris is going to start 11th. Notable Chad Coleman's going to start 12th as they get ready to go super speedway racing here.
Green.
As they see the green flag down to the rear, down to the start zone, Wesley Donaldson gets them rolling with a shove from Tyler Dalton. We're green flag for the Cooks Landscape Group Cup Series.
Handful of drivers right away jump to the bottom. Saw the 51 of Justin Fuller sneak down there as they get really tight. They'll go 3 wide over there in turns 1 and 2 as the field screams off to go to full turn. They should be grabbing 5th gear right about here, and they go in parade formation down the back straightaway for the first time. The question is, who's going to lead the first lap? I know that Tyler Dalton loves to lead a lap, and is it going to be the first one, or is he going to stay tucked in behind Wesley Donaldson? Move the 91 to the start-finish line for the first time.
2 by 2. Let's rephrase that. Single file for the first 4. Then it's 2 by 2 on back. I believe that's David Shieldhouse has Bobby Wetzel's firmly on the nose there in the 9 as they're going to come across the stripe. Donaldson's going to lead the first lap here of 75. Tyler Dalton's going to break out and pick up that outside groove. This is going to be a common sight all night long. Side-by-side racing. 2 wide most of the time is going to be the minimum, but it is not going to be, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see some 3 wide deep racing through this field at some point here tonight. Speaking of, they're going to make it 3 wide on lap number 2. These cars just getting up to full song, and here comes David Shieldhouse in the 20 machine right up the middle, and hello, David Shieldhouse.
3 about 4 rows deep as Glenn Campbell's in the sucker hole out in the back of the middle. And, you know, I think we're going to see when the runs are generated, they're going to come up through the middle and to the high side. It looks like, well, I don't know. I can't tell you who led that lap. Probably Tyler Dalton.
That was Tyler Dalton on the outside there.
I have to say that it really feels like when you're on the bottom, constrained by the double yellow line, you're boxed in and you always look out that right side window and everybody just keeps streaking by. But if you want to be safe and you need an exit lane for a crash, sometimes the bottom line's the place to be. And right now it looks like the bottom line is prevailing. They're quite organized, and Dalton leads them through 3 and 4.
He does. He's got David Shieldhouse right to the bumper. Then it's Donaldson sitting 3rd, and Kevin, you nailed it. Typically when there's an accident, these large high-bank superspeedway racetracks, the wreck tends to sweep up the track before it moves down. And so being down there on that bottom is often the most safest place to be. But I tell you what, there's a torn argument. And I have to mention this every time we come to these superspeedway races. You're either the safest in the very front or the very back. And Tyler Dalton is the tip of the spear right now. He's led that lap he wanted to and then some. But then we take a look a little further back. Sitting 29th right now, Nelson Rivera's back here. David Comstock, we saw him have a really strong practice. He is actually starting well back. I think he started on pit road. Joey Chatina's back here sitting 26. Charles Woods, Bentley Glacier, we've seen him be up front quite a bit. He's back there 24. Justin Fuller is 23rd. So a mixed bag of strategy and thoughts here is David Shieldhouse now is taking that outside line, working through this long sweeping tri-oval with DeBrown on the bumper. Dalton's going to lead it as they come across the stripe, but side by side as they head off through 1 and 2.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, mixed reservations about where to run in this racetrack. But one of the things is you don't want to be in the middle of the scrum. If something's going to happen, that's really your hardest escape route to drive through it. Drivers want to be up front, but sometimes when the accident happens up front, it collects the entire field. So where do you ride? Out in the back. And even then, it's hard to get these cars stopped. You're right on top of the stack coming out of turn 4. We have 3 cars that did not start with the field. The 04 of Doug Sigmund, the 13 car is now running down the middle of the backstretch, David Comstock, and the 31 of Eric Arnold coming off of turn number 2. They are not with this main pack, but everybody else right on top of everybody else here, Sean, as they roll through the corner.
Yeah, they do, and you see that run kind of break up just a little bit on the front. That's not going to be advantageous to David Shieldhouse. He is sitting on the point there, but being disorganized means you're slow here at Talladega. And, you know, we talk about that up front battle versus starting in the rear. A driver that started 18 spots back is Stephen Miles. He just took the point there on that outside line with our good friend Mark Jorgensen Jr. out of nowhere. He's up 14 spots. Another notable, Jason Karlovage in the 60. He's had a rough turn of events here the last couple weeks, but now he's sitting up 24 spots so far tonight in that top 5. And Kevin, it looks like we've got some drivers clearly made some decisions. Stephen Miles was able to bring home the checker flag last night at Auto Club in the ARCA car, but obviously a whole different can of beans as they come here to Talladega.
Yeah, certainly super speedway racing is a thing unto itself. There's a bit of an art and a science to this, and some drivers seem to have the knack, and other drivers seem to just get caught up in everything every time. I'm waving my hand on that one. I feel like there's just a sense of survive to the end, try to be up in the front. That's really primarily the strategy. But the interesting thing we'll see here tonight, and maybe we will play this all the way through, it's not out of the realm of possibility to go caution free. And these drivers will be thinking about fuel mileage. 75 laps is the distance. And we know in the fuel tank, a normal run will take you 33 laps. Do the math, that's 66. So they're going to have to pit multiple times. And you have to wonder if somebody's back there clutching, if somebody's trying to lay off the gas and coast in the slipstream of the car in front of them and consider some different fuel mileage. But I don't, you know, when you think about stretching from 33, maybe 35, if you're close to getting to 75, I don't know that you can do this on one stop.
Yeah, likely it's very possible to see caution free here. I'd love to actually see that happen, but the how tight this racing is here, that is certainly going to be something they have to think about. And you almost have to start the race with 3 or 4 different strategies, and then by 10 laps in, all right, strategy 1's out the window. We know what we got now. And then you just continue to work that game plan. And right now, everybody's just on go. As David Shieldhouse now is going to poke out. He goes out really wide. I don't think he wanted to deal with this lap traffic as Miles is going to take to the middle here. And now Shieldhouse is going to pick up Mark Jorgensen on the high line there, all the way up against that wall. You'll see a lot of these drivers, or a lot of these 3 wide instances of drivers up there above that third or that second white line. More room here at Talladega than there is at Daytona. And depending on the car handling and your driving style, how steady you can hold that wheel, being on the bottom through the tri-oval versus the top may drive a preference. A lot of folks, at least on TV and in the broadcast, it doesn't look like that inside line is it looks really smooth, but as a driver and you get down that tri-oval, there's a lot of bumps down there that can unsettle the car, especially in certain situations. So a lot of places to be, a lot of track strategy, or pit strategy rather, to think about. And, well, a lot of traffic in general as Jose Gonzalez gets pushed to the front here with Bobby Wetzel working around lap number 10 of 75 for the Cooks Landscape Group Cup Series right here on turn 1. And, Kevin, so far so good. These guys are looking pretty sharp on track.
Yeah, and I'm watching different strategies play out. We saw David Schildhouse go up, lead a lap number 5, I think it was. Now he finds himself back there in the 20th position. Went to the high side and just kind of bowed out and went to the back of the field, and he's leaving the charge to some different drivers up front. You mentioned Bobby Wetzel started on outside pole. He's got the 91 tucked in behind him on the back bumper, and Wetzel is out front here as they go down the back straightaway with Jose Gonzalez to the inside, and he's got the 24 of Stephen Miles pushing him. Different players up front, and they're going to be in a tense moment here. One of the worst things you could do off of turn 4 is catch another car, and they've come off of turn 4. Fortunately, they got to this short straightaway. We'll have to see if they can get through the tri-oval here cleanly as they go around David Comstock. 16.5 degrees of banking, which is really steep at any given racetrack, but it feels flat here when you roll through Talladega. The good news is the track's a little bit wider over there, and it seems like everybody buzzed on through without a difficulty.
No issues as they roll through this tri-oval. Another thing we would go, it'd be a shame if we didn't talk about is that start-finish line. So everybody whizzed by there at nearly 200 miles an hour in the draft, and that start-finish line not in a traditional place. So we'll take a look at it as we come back by here. But Jose Gonzalez, he's not going to see that flag stand until he works himself all the way back around the tri-oval and halfway down the short straight to turn 1. That will be a factor here before it's all said and done tonight. The last pass is often happening right here before they get all the way down here to this start-finish line. And that, again, likely will be a factor in determining tonight's winner here at Talladega. Gonzalez leads a lap there. No bubbles, no trouble. Stephen Miles, Kevin DeBrown in P3. Then Tyler Dalton, Glenn Campbell, your top 5. Again, no real big rush here, no big push. Everybody's kind of minding their P's and Q's and finding a partner that they trust. That is one thing that is a really big story at Super Speedway Racing, is you got to find somebody that not only you trust, but you can ride around with. Kevin, I think one of the most underrated things about here is knowing driver tendencies. You obviously race with these drivers each and every week, but the biggest thing is being able to figure out what are they going to do, what are they thinking when the traffic comes up, or how they're lifting, or can they hold the wheel well. All that's a factor here tonight at Talladega when choosing somebody to go with.
Yeah, certainly these drivers are measuring that right now, taking notes. It's almost like a giant chess match. How does the driver come off the corner? Do they drift up or do they stay tight to the line? When you're going down the back straightaway, you tend to get a good draft. Do they come up and bump you at the end of the straightaway, or are they pushing you in the start of the turn? One of the things drivers will tell you makes them most uncomfortable is a shove in the banking when you're trying to drive. And you know, you're trying to gauge how the driver behind you is behaving. You're also looking at how tight to the bumper are they, and how are they pushing me? How is the guy in the front doing, leading the line? You see Jose Gonzalez out front. It's pretty easy for other drivers to mount out and go to the high side and get to him and push, but right now doing a superior job is the 24 of Stephen Miles. And look, they're doing 196, 197 miles an hour top speed at some points. This arrow that they have going on with the car buffeting back and forth in the wind and the bumps coming through, it's not a Sunday drive. These drivers are up on the wheel trying to concentrate, and right now everybody's doing an outstanding job as we work lap number 15.
Working through 3 and 4 here. We just saw something that I think is really important to note. We saw Gonzalez, Miles, DeBrown. They actually broke away from the pack. I don't think that's going to be the norm here, but we saw how tightly concentrated those 3 cars were. They were right nose to tail all the way through that lap, and that put them on a really decent gap here. And don't think other drivers did not notice that, as Tyler Dalton takes back to the outside. He's got Bobby Wetzel, Wesley Donaldson up there with him. But don't think some drivers did not take note of that and how strong that draft could be once you get a pack together. And keep in mind, we're halfway through now what will be this, what could be a green flag run here on fuel. So this car is starting to drastically change versus the start of the race. So we're starting to get a little lighter. There's less fuel in it. The tires, not a lot of wear here, but certainly is going to change. And say you need to dive into the corner or carve into the corner a little harder, you may not have the grip you once expected, and well, you'll find calamity off entering either turn 1 or turn 3. Oftentimes, most of the time it's going off into 3 in my experience, but these drivers really trying to adjust and learn and pivot and be ready to go at a moment's notice as we see our top 10 back doubled up here 2 by 2, and then spread out for about 3 or 4 rows, 3 wide, and now the liar out of me and be a 3 wide battle for 5th. Kevin, I'm very surprised to see some of these drivers. It's very tame here. Knock on every piece of wood you can find, but I wonder if the playoff message kicked in for some of these drivers. Fuller, Schildhouse, Calatoni, Miles, everybody knows there's a lot here on the line for these top 14 to roll off here the next couple weeks. This race seems like everybody came with a little bit of patience.
Yeah, I mean, these drivers also know what's on the line. If they're crashed and in a steaming pile of junk sitting on the apron, they're not going to get the win here tonight. So early on, they'll kind of mind their P's and Q's. Bobby Wetzel, I saw a move, and I want to talk about this from the last couple of laps. Wetzel and the 19 car of Tyler Dalton are known to work together. They're kind of like a dynamic duo when you get to these racetracks, and they went through and Dalton split from him, went down and covered the bottom line. And I feel like maybe that was a teammate move to see if you could control the race, but in the end, yeah, you can't really control that sometimes as they drove around. And right now, Wesley Donaldson is the one at point. He's got the 84 of Anthony Calantoni. Again, I think another teammate. Calantoni, I know, wants to lead a lap, and he was able to break by. And he's going to get a push from the 95. First time we've mentioned Cody Harris here tonight, running in second as Calantoni leads lap number 19. And yeah, this is what we expect to see at this racetrack. Come, go, leave, run hard, come back, and we're seeing a good mix of that early on here as we work lap 19. How many? We've had, 7 different leaders by my count right now, with Calantoni being leader number 7.
Yeah, a lot of lead changes here so far tonight at Talladega as we work to complete lap number 19 to 75. We got a big wreck down in turn 3. Several drivers on the apron there. It looks like it involved Eric Arnold, Randy Yoakum. I saw. Let's just take a look at the replay here. Oh, the 53 just gets a massive run and gets into the 8. I don't know if that was actually what happened here. Let's see from Randy Yoakum. Oh, that looks like...
this started way up in the front of the pack, it almost feels like.
Who was that up there? Was that DeBrown I saw?
The 31 and the 9, I want to say. I saw a red car go around there.
Same. Let's take a look. This is... Oh, that is not going to be a good view either.
Yeah, there's the 9 on the apron coming back.
So let's take a look. Let's take a look what we think. That's going to be Mr. Bobby Wetzel, right? Well, that's another...
You have Alan Wild there. Yeah, from what I saw, the 31 got into the side of the 9 after the 30 of Macklin came through, and that almost looked like it was internet related as the car turned around.
Oh!
There you go. The car just did a 360 right in the middle of the racetrack. Didn't seem to have any contact, and unfortunately for a couple of drivers, no place to go. You see how many of them diving down to the apron. You go from 33 degrees to, 4 degrees of banking there at the bottom of the apron. It's such a crazy drop-off, and you have to believe that a couple drivers got a little bit of damage in that, as, well, that's going to take the fuel mileage play out of this, because we're working lap 18. If you add 33 to that, where does it take you? I don't know. Not to the finish, that's for sure.
That math is mathin', as they say, Kevin. As everybody's going to come down pit road here for the first stops of the night to the attention of their crew. That was the 14 that we saw with a bunch of damage on the nose, and he got in to Eric Arnold and co. There. That's not going to be how he wants to see this all come about. As everybody hits the box. This is the entire field. As I say that, but then David Comstock's going to stay out and try to get a wave around opportunity here to get his lap back. This is actually going to be a caution that saves him. Started out back and was having trouble finding some drafting help, and well, he's going to get a little bit of a reprieve. We're going to step aside for just a moment. EJ O'Rourke beats everybody off pit road. Joe Hudson is going to restart P2. That is Calatoni, Harrison, Macklin, your top 5. You're watching Turn 1. Pace car lights are off. They're getting ready to go back green flag racing here at Talladega as they come to take lap number 23. Closing in on a third of the way through here tonight for the Cooks Landscape Group Cup Series. And, well, a little bit of a shakeup up front. We saw a couple drivers get off pit road first, but they decided to come back down. Now it's Anthony Calatoni, Cody Harris, Brian Macklin, Mark Jorgensen Jr., Bobby Wetzel, your top 5. Ron Holyfield, Jose Gonzalez, Joey Jatina, Glenn Campbell, Doug Roth up there in that top 10. Kevin DeBrown's going to restart 11th. Nelson Rivera, Kevin Stone, Stephen Miles, Justin Fuller. That top 15 crew as they get ready to go back green flag racing. This is going to get them, oh goodness, what does this get them? This gets them about 15, 20 laps short on fuel, so everybody's going to have to come at least one more time for a splash. We'll see how this all works out as Calatoni brings them all the way down this long tri-oval here into the restart. Into the restart zone, and the green flag's back out, and we're racing again at Talladega.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed in looking at the field as they come down to turn number one and go up through the RPMs is the 14 of Joey Jattina. We remarked the front end damage. He didn't get much of that fixed, but currently sitting in that 8th position, if he can stay tucked in underneath the bumper of someone else, he may be able to be okay. You could run with a little bit of damage as long as it's not engine or wheel damage, but the arrow in the front certainly isn't going to help that car, and I don't believe we'll see him leading at any given point. Nice to see Ron Hollifield having a good early run here, sitting there in the 3rd car outside line, that number 25. And I noticed that, we have a couple drivers that we haven't seen for a period of time come in. I saw the 07 of Alan Wild. Always runs pretty well at this type of racetrack. He's currently sitting in that 20th position. And I don't know if this break helps or hurts your mindset when you get that early caution, but now all the drivers are hammered down and you run pretty much wide open around here until you tuck up and suck up against the car in front of you. Then you have to lift, and now a lot of drivers are probably doing a little bit of fuel calculation, trying to figure out, well, what's the next stint gonna mean to me?
Yeah, as we were just talking about there, that coming down pit road here, came back green flag here with lap 24, wrapping up lap 24. So if they could go, let's call it conservative 30, 33, maybe on the higher end, that puts them right around lap 60, 57, 58, 59. So it's certainly not going to be able to make it the rest of the way, but just a factor to think about for some of these drivers. Again, if you could walk away here with a really strong finish, knowing that you're going to Phoenix and Dover here over the next couple of weeks, 2 wildly different racetracks, even in comparison to themselves, but especially here at Talladega, being able to luck into one here and take a checkered flag, I think any one of these drivers would take. Another driver we've not talked about tonight so far is Justin Fuller, at least in any meaningful way. He's up 11 spots, and you're starting to see that Cooks Landscape Group car. He's going to look to the outside of Mark Jorgensen Jr., and he's going to get some help from Anthony Calatoni as they work down this tri-oval here with Cody Harris on the point. And Kevin, I tell you what, Cody Harris we've seen some flashes of speed, but just like Tyler Dalton and others, it seems like it's been a bit of a hard time as of late finding some consistency.
I'll tell you, the oof for me was the side draft from the 51 of Justin Fuller. He got underneath the quarter panel of the 95 of Cody Harris and pulled up on the door and pulled away, and Cody Harris sank like a stone, and the 51, 84, and 88 all gained the momentum on the bottom. They can say what they want about that 95 car. He's been there, and he's there. He's been winning races here and there, but he's been having strong runs. And, the days that he stays out of trouble, he's in the mix, and here he is again coming down, and he's going to lead this lap. So, you look at the number of wins on the season, he's number 3 in the pocket there, and I would not count that 95 out.
Certainly would not with Justin Fuller right underneath him. He turned it on in the summer and found a lot of pace, and that's put him right here hunting for this championship. They have to split that outside line just a little bit. That's Cody Harris is going to remain in line, but now Ron Holyfield's going to unfortunately go backwards in the 3rd line. Nowhere to go. He got squeezed out there. Kevin DeBrown filled that hole very quickly, and now side by side they roll out of turn number 4 and getting ready to come back to the start-finish line. Let's go back to DeBrown. He's making some moves. That 93 looking sharp. He's going to move down there in front of the 51 and come across the start-finish line. And DeBrown, not hunting for a championship here. Just a driver out here racing for wins, Kevin. And he is another driver that has been awfully strong over the last couple of weeks. We've seen him kind of turn up the wick a little bit here as he's up here challenging for leading the laps here at Talladega.
Yeah, historically, Kevin DeBrown has had plenty of speed, especially short run speed at different racetracks, but he's not had consistency. But I agree with you. From the middle of the season till now, he has turned it up. He's been a player in this top 10 and showing strength each and every week. He'd be a driver that I'd put a nod for early season favorite for championship next year, but he wants the end of the year strong, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him sitting in the win column here sooner rather than later. And I think he can get the job done by the end of the season, as good as he's running this last stretch.
Another driver here, I think, hungry for a win. He has been awfully quick again. One of those names we've been talking more of here the last couple weeks, really, is Thomas George. He led a lap there coming across the start-finish line on the inside line there off the bumper to Brown. And it looks like Harris is going to have Stephen Miles glued to the back of that 95 and work down through 3 and 4. But Thomas George has got to Brown. He's got Fuller and Calatoni right in line here as they come down to Tri-Oval. And this is going to be another lap led here for that 6 car. Not a bad run for that 6 Ford of Thomas George. Another driver to start thinking about here a little bit is Brian Macklin. He's up 15 spots. He's sitting in 8th right now. That driver just had a rough run of luck. And, well, Talladega is one of those racetracks that anybody can turn it around. It is what I call the greatest of equalizers. You can be 30th in the points and DNQ'd, or DNF'd, say, 10 of the last races. But if you put a run together, right place, right time, Talladega could be a place that you could bring home a checkered flag.
Yeah, one driver I would circle for that momentum is the 44 of Glenn Campbell. He's currently sitting in about the 7th position there on the inside line, and behind him, a driver we haven't seen that much of this season, but having a strong showing here, is the 43 of Doug Roth, running the Petty colors. On the outside of him, Mr. Bad Luck, Robert Fryery III. He's out there about the 12th, 14th position in the number 2 custom carpentry Ford. He needs a win, and all of these drivers come here and it's even Steven. It's really just a matter of how do you play the chess match. He's looking at the bottom of the 22 of Nelson Rivera, who's not had that much of a remarkable season, but is a fine sim racer. And, you look at these guys and they come to this racetrack and go, okay, let's see what we can get. Maybe I can sneak away a win. All things are possible here at the Talladega 2.66 mile super speedway.
They start a finish line here, working lap number 32 of 75 here on turn 1. Thomas George remains out front. It's single file for our top 8 or so. That's DeBrown, Fuller, Calatoni, Jorgensen, Macklin, and Campbell. Then Cody Harris mixes it up there with Doug Ross, Stephen Miles. And I tell you, this is kind of that lull. I was afraid that caution was going to reset the tempo and the energy in this race. But so far, since the restart here, everybody's back in modding their P's and Q's. Nobody's pushing the issue too hard. I would even argue that incident with Eric Arnold looked more technical in nature. Unfortunately, caused a couple cars to have some moments. But other than that, everybody's been just really mellow and minding their business as I say that. Caution's going to come out as several cars make contact there in the Tri-Oval, and this is going to collect some folks, Kevin.
Yeah, for sure. You see the smoke in the air as drivers were skidding to a stop there. We see the 28 of Patrick Colby pulling away, one of our championship contenders, a huge hit for the 26. And then multiple other cars nose in. The 91, the early leader, Wesley Donaldson, finds some significant damage to the WBD diecast car. And boy, I tell you, that I don't know where that started in the context of just one car getting turned, but it collected multiple cars, both down low, and you even see the car sliding to a stop down there on the apron.
Yeah, I was very, David Shieldhouse, Tyler Dalton, you saw them squeeze through there, but yeah, this is not the ideal situation here for a lot of these drivers. Again, just kind of rotting around in the back. This all started with that, who is that? Is that the 98? Am I reading that right? That looked like that was Charles Woods. And let's take one more quick look and find out what happened there to Woods. I believe he may have had a little bit of help here. Oof, just a big impact. Oh, and Kevin, another driver that cannot catch a break. That's Jason Karlovage there, nowhere to go.
Yeah, it just looked like the 98 thought maybe the opening was there and moved down, got the bumper of the 13 and turned him sideways. He went down and clipped the 53 of Jason Pick, and it was on from there. When you've got a car sideways through the middle of the tri-oval, pretty hard to pick your lane and hope you win the lottery and go through. And of course, we saw multiple cars. And well, what does that mean? Feeding time at the zoo is your leader drops off and everybody goes in. You don't really need tires here, but since you're going to fill up with fuel, well, a lot of drivers will opt to take fours. We see fuel only on a lot of these choices.
And this is going to be an interesting dilemma for a couple of these drivers, because by the time we get back green flag here, it's going to be, what, 36, 37? That may get you in the window. We'll talk more about that. And what does this mean for pit strategy here when we come back? You're watching Turn 1. So we talked about strategy being at play here. We're going to go back green flag racing on lap number 36 at Talladega for the Cooks Landscape Group Cup Series. And, well, we are right there nearing that halfway point in the next 2 to 3 laps. And a driver who I think is thinking about that fuel number is E.J. O'Rourke. He came back down pit road here when they came by last time to top that 41 car up a little bit. Doesn't look like he's got any damage on that machine, so something to consider. Meanwhile, everybody else is going to be full tilt forward, and likely not the last caution we've seen here tonight. The pace car is going to head down pit road, and to Brown, Calatoni, Fuller, Macklin, Jorgensen, Harris, your top 6. As they work down this tri-oval into the restart zone, they'll get ready to roll, and the 93 of Kevin DeBrown is going to be your control car, and the green flag's back out here at Talladega.
Yeah, I was just kind of taking the calculator out and looking at it. 40 laps to go through. We know they can make 33 if they stretch it. Maybe they can get to 35, but 40 laps, that's just a little bit too much. So it might be interesting to see if there's a splash and go strategy somewhere here. I don't know that any of these drivers would risk ducking off unless they did it with teammates partway through, so that should a yellow come out, they'd be cycled to the top. Going to be interesting to see how the crew chiefs handle this, as right now Kevin DeBrown getting a push from Justin Fuller out of turn number 4. And we saw a lot of cars fuel only there, Sean, and that begs the commentary that tires, not a real big difference here. You could run probably this whole race on the same set of tires and still not be below 90% wear. Is well, these guys, they want to lead the lap. I kind of find that interesting that the 51 ducked out of line there behind the 93 to see if he could lead. The 95 pushed DeBrown to the lead, and the 51's odd man out on that high side. There was an opening down on the bottom, but he opted to stay there, and that would be a good career move. I think you really want to kind of pick up a teammate and not force yourself by trying to get into one of those holes. We saw what kind of problems come from that with that 10-car incident we had there on lap 31. Fuller, the veteran that he is, stays to the high side. And right now he's got a good run out of turn 4 and mounting a charge to see if he can lead the lap.
Yeah, it looked like he got just pushed out of position there, and unfortunately wasn't able to get back down there in enough time, and Cody Harris filled the gap. Cody Harris and Nelson Rivera filled the gap, so ultimately elected to stay outside there and maybe learn a little bit of something. In the meantime, where does he need to be when it comes down to this, and where can he pick up a run? Right now, that outside line's stalled out, hanging around at the 5th or 6th place spot there through the rest of the field, as Justin Fuller is hanging out on that outside line here as they work lap number 38. And now, just as I say that, they start to look 3 wide. That's Brian Macklin leading the charge on that second white line. Oh, Calatoni makes a big wiggle there right in the middle of this group. Everybody stays out of trouble, but that 84, everybody scatters. And that was that could have been an oh my moment out of the 84 of Anthony Calatoni, but no harm, no foul, and the green flag stays out here. And as we work lap 39 at Talladega, Kevin DeBrown on the bottom, minding his P's and Q's here, and that car looks pretty stable. Looks like he has got a good hand underneath him, and he's got one of the best in the biz. Again, Cody Harris up front. He's been up here for a while so far here tonight, qualified just outside the top 10, and just hanging out here on the bottom, and just being there. And I think this is, when we go back to talking about, do you want to be in the front, do you want to be in the back? Well, Cody Harris so far has made a decision. He started towards the middle and didn't like that. I think he ran towards the rear for a lap or two, didn't like that. So now he is up front running with the rest of them as Steven Miles gets a huge shove. Macklin's going to make his way forward off the push of the 51. And Steven Miles is now going to take that top spot on that inside line.
Yeah, looking at that incident, there was a toll on the attrition factor as Jason Pick, Charles Wood, Jason Carlavage, and Alan Wild all going to the house, done for the day. Out behind them, there's 4 cars. Joe Hudson, Glenn Campbell, Brian Wertman, Doug Sigmund running out back there as you see the 28 peel off out of turn 3 and go to the bottom. Looking at that, the one car that I saw take a hit, Joe Hudson, probably couldn't stay with him, but I'm impressed with the 91 of Wesley Donaldson. We saw him nose into the front stretch wall here, right about start-finish line, and yet he's able to tuck in and keep in play by staying in the draft. And, we were talking about the 95 of Cody Harris, one of the championship contenders. He's running up there with Chad Coleman, who we've not spoken about, running about the 5th, 6th position. And then you look out back, Bentley Glazer, Anthony Calatoni, who was up front. Both of those cars have been riding in the back, just quietly getting the laps underway. I would think that you could run this race, Sean, with some tactical, where you're going to wait till about 10 to go, and then you're going to try to get to that middle or high side, make your run to the front, and hope that you can get the track position. I don't think you can count those guys out who are riding out in the back.
No, absolutely not. That is that is the beauty of super speedway racing, but really here at even Talladega and Daytona, where you could be sitting 23rd with 2 to go and walk home with a checkered flag as they work here. Lap 42 of 75, past halfway for tonight's Cook Landscape Group Cup Series. On turn 1, I'm Sean Fitz alongside Kevin England, and it's been a great show so far here with these. Just a handful of cautions, but mostly clean and green racing. As now, I suspect we were talking about 10, 15 laps ago. Things are relatively calm. Everybody's minding their P's and Q's. Well, every lap from here on out, the energy is going to ramp up just a little bit more. Somebody's going to try something a little bit different, and these drivers are going to be looking for any advantage they could possibly get to be up front when the last lap and the white flag waves. So, Stephen Miles leading the charge here. That's 6-car single filed, 7-car single filed all the way out there. Justin Fuller's going to make up that last spot. Then it's a pretty big gap in terms of super speedway racing, about a 4-car gap. Then it's Donaldson, Bobby Wetzel. Ron Holyfield's going to round out the top 10 as this field's starting to look a little unorganized, Kevin. I can't help but wonder if this is some of these drivers electing to save a little bit of fuel. Everybody's just half throttle, 2/3 throttle in this draft, and just riding around here right now. This is a little unusual to see in a normal super speedway race.
Yeah, the leaders were approaching the 0.7 of Alan Wild. He's multiple laps down, running in that high side, and I have to wonder if some of the high lane, middle, and top side cars decided they didn't want to go through there 2-3 wide, so they all got back in. But every once in a while you get in that mindset of like, okay, it's 44 laps in. Maybe we're just going to ride here till we get to caution. I found my teammate. I'm comfortable with them. No reason to push, not too much to gain. And you'll see drivers duck out every once in a while, try to get a little energy, test that outside lane. Maybe they're waiting for their driver to get to them and come through and mount the challenge. Case in point, up in the top side, about mid-pack or a little bit back, the 14 of Joey Jattina just dropped out and picked up the 88 of Mark Jorgensen Jr., last week's winner. And the two of them running nose to tail with the 41 behind them. It is possible that they just decided, okay, we found each other, let's go. And now they're trying to mount the charge to get the high side going.
While we're watching that race towards the rear start to heat up just a little bit, let's ride on board with the 38 of Chad Coleman. He is sitting 5th right now. And Kevin, I think this is a really good opportunity to get an idea of what it's like being in the cockpit of one of these next-gen cars.
Yeah, right now at the end of the straightaway, the car is wound out. You hear the engine running at top song. You get to the turn and you're going to turn in, hug right along that yellow line. Maybe you let the car drift up a little bit so that it's not working so hard to get out of the exit of the corner. You usually draft right up to the back bumper right about here. You don't want to make contact on entry into the tri-oval, so you're kind of tucked in here, and then you'll get another little bit of burst of speed coming off the tri-oval. Right now he looks like he's just kind of easing out. You can see by the indicators on his dash, the 2 and now 1 yellow, that he's out of the throttle. He is saving fuel. If he were full throttle, you'd see that wind up and see little glimpses of red. You might see that at the end of the straightaway. So he's not pushing the issue right now. It looks like a little fuel mileage. You just peaked at the red marks there at the end of the straightaway, but he's not tucked up to the bumper, so he's not running full song. Just kind of riding along, minding his P's and Q's and logging laps right now.
We saw how bumpy it was as they worked through that tri-oval. Those are those notorious humps that I've talked about there. It's not smooth. It is very bumpy, and then you get down there with 38 of your best friends, and things can get fairly spicy here as they work 29 laps to go for the Cook Landscape Group Cup Series. Stephen Miles leading on the bottom to Brown. Now here comes the outside charge. That's being led by Brian Macklin, Joey Gentina. Keep in mind, he had some damage on the nose of that 14. Well, he's up here running in the top 5 and not having a too bad of night. Nelson Rivera's putting together a decent run so far here. He's sitting up there in the top 10. EJ O'Rourke's back up here. Eric Arnold, where did he come from? We saw him sideways and backwards at one point, and a lot of issues, or maybe some connectivity problems. Either way, Kevin, Eric Arnold back up into the top 10.
Yeah, and while we were riding along with Chad Coleman, we know he was kind of running a little bit of a leisurely pace, but as soon as you see those cars out to the outside, you know that that high line can mount a run if they've got the energy and drive up, and you'll find yourself running 14th. So you'll see the drivers up in that early low pack try to tuck in close to each other and maintain priority for the bottom line. Shorter way around, they should be able to do it, but when the top line gets a good run, they side draft, they come down. You know, you see these cars, how far apart they run in the corner. The cars in the middle of the racetrack are up, what, a car width up away, but at the end of the race, you could promise that they'll be trying to side draft, pull the cars back. They'll be down on the door in the corner. So as the race progresses, the aggression picks up and we'll see a little more tight quarters. And, well, what does that lead to, Sean? The potential for crashes.
It certainly does. As we saw the run there, that the gap between Stephen Miles, Kevin DeBrown, we talked about that earlier. That gap, that actually means you're slower than what you should be. And we saw DeBrown really come up to the back bumper of the 24, give him a strong nudge off into 1 and 2, actually launched him back out front by half a car length for a little bit. They get that pogo stick wound up, though, and now the 93 attached to the back bumper of the 24. And in real life, at times, they'll run a sticky substance or a non-slip type substance on those bumpers. Obviously, we don't have that same ability here at iRacing, but every little bit of nudge and push and gather you can get from your peers and your teammates around you is going to lead you in mile an hour. Miles again on the point. DeBrown, Harris, Rivera, Coleman, Jatina, Fuller, Jorgensen, Donaldson, and E.J. O'Rourke, your top 10. As we look a little further back, another driver we have not talked a lot about here tonight, that's Kevin Stone. He is back there in that 17 car, +5 on the night in 15th place. And he is riding around right there with David Schildhouse on the nose. Kevin Stone having a pretty decent, quiet, clean night here so far. Another driver who is played this out fairly well, knew he didn't need to push the issue early, is David Comstock. Started deep in the field, actually went a lap down at one point. Well, David's now back in the 18th on the lead lap. And Kevin, a driver like David, a driver like Brian Macklin, Troy Haight, Bentley Glaser, Joe Hudson, we certainly could see them at the very front here when it's all said and done.
Yeah, we know that leading at this point doesn't mean anything when it comes to actually getting the win. We could just test that by the number of leaders we've had here tonight. But right now, Stephen Miles comfortably out front with Kevin DeBrown and Harris following 1, 2, 3. Every time it seems like that top line gains a little energy and draws up to get through it, they get a little tighter and they seem to be able to drive it away. It's been bottom line dominant here tonight. But I think as we get to the end, the energy from the outside runs will mount, and we're going to see a 2 or even 3 wide finish when we get to it here at Talladega.
Working less than 25 laps to go here for tonight's Cooks Landscape Group Cup Series on turn 1. And you know, we talk about Talladega, but we've also mentioned Dover and Phoenix here in the next couple weeks. Those are going to be some really interesting tracks for some of these drivers. And even if you're slow at some of those, you've got to find some speed, especially if you're somebody that likes Chad Coleman. I won't argue that Chad's an underdog by any stretch, but certainly in the caliber of racers that we have with Fuller and with Fuller, Schildhouse, even Jorgensen at times, Chad is I would call a middle of the pack, top 8 driver. So, Kevin, I have to ask you this. If you're one of those guys, maybe not the fastest each and every week, running for that pole, running for that checker flag, and you're going into Dover and Phoenix, what is your thoughts right now as we're well past halfway at Vega?
Yeah, I have a sense that if you're Chad Coleman, you're actually looking forward to Dover. One, it's a racetrack that favors a veteran, somebody who knows how to run fast over a long number of laps, and that suits right in his wheelhouse. I'm not sure that Phoenix is going to be a place where I would point to him. That tends to lead to the more technical drivers like Schildhouse and the drivers who have speed like Fuller. But come after that, Chicagoland and Iowa are everybody track, and if you can just mind yourself on a long green flag run, you could put yourself in it. And we were talking before the show started about Homestead. That's an everybody track. Homestead's one of those places where you have a knack for it or you don't, and we don't know who could show up at the end and pull this thing off.
Certainly don't, as we saw the middle of the pack there. That was around Justin Fuller, Shieldhouse, Donaldson, and those other guys there. Things just got a little out of whack, and a bunch of runs kind of gathered up all at once. Nobody had nowhere really to go. They get it all sorted out and remain under green flag conditions here. And Kevin, now we've got to start thinking about fuel mileage just a little bit. So we are within about 10 laps of that fuel window we were talking about. Some of these drivers last out pit road on lap 33. So this is 30 laps this time by. And we saw a good portion of drivers start to really half throttle, quarter throttle in the draft. We see this top 10 be fairly tame. And I just, to your point earlier, I don't know if you could save 10 laps at all, regardless where you are in this field. And I suspect we'll see some pit stops here. Going to have to happen in the next, the next 8 to 10 laps.
Yeah, I see an interesting dynamic here where everybody's trying to get to the bottom because the no pit stops are coming. Some of these drivers would like to get to the bottom, but at the front of the field. And as they come down the back straightaway, that centipede action of somebody slowing up and then the next and then the next, and the cars are beating and banging the bumpers on the entry about at 10th, 11th, allows the top lane to get a little bit of advantage. And one of the drivers looking at that dynamic is the 20 of Shieldhouse. He's worked his way up to 13th. He was running out in the back, and a few of these cars have jumped up and are making a little speed on the run. And speaking of that, here comes Shieldhouse with a huge run to the back bumper of the 9 of Bobby Wetzel. These 4 up top get tight and they move down on the door, which is what we're seeing on the entry to the corner. This top line could surge and take over command of this race.
It's just a matter of time, and it just takes that, about a lap worth of green flag racing, and before you know it, you're going to have some stiff competition on that outside. And this is all being led by the 51 of Fuller, who I think is probably in the same mindset. Guys, we're not going to make this race here, so everybody just needs to go. And he's forcing everybody to race a little bit harder by driving that challenge on that outside. He's got Donaldson there with him. I believe that was Donaldson. No, that's O'Rourke right there. I'm sorry. And then and a couple others, including Shieldhouse. So a little bit of a late drive there, as everybody's going to be jockeying for pit road position here as we work 19 laps remaining at Dega. And now that outside line's going to retreat just a little bit. We'll see if anybody elects to come down pit road here. This time by, it certainly doesn't look like it. Kevin, maybe they found a little bit of savings somewhere, so they went back green flag. Let's call it lap 35, so they could get to 65 without too much issue. So certainly closing in on that number.
We were saying 33 was the conventional, and I think they went back to green on lap 33, if I'm not mistaken. So they would be able to get to 66. We're working lap 58, and I think they can go a little bit longer, but this is the time frame, about 4 to 5 laps before you pit, where you want to get as far up in the field as you can, and then you want to get inside. And really the logic behind this is, if you're up front and you pit and you make a little bit of a mistake, you'll be able to recover by picking up somebody. Ideally, when they go into a green flag pit stop, number one job is get in, get off, and get in that lead pack, the lead draft. Don't make a mistake. And if you happen to make a smidge of a mistake, maybe you slide a little too deep into your pit box or whatever, that time you lose is compensated for if you pit from the 3rd position versus the 30th position. And so drivers right now probably would do best to try and get up as far as they can before they make that left-hand turn and head to pit road, to the attention of their crew.
Stephen Miles, Kevin DeBrown, Cody Harris, your top 3. Nelson Rivera's right there as this field's starting to break up a little bit. I suspect it almost looked like a couple folks decided to come there as That was that looked a little sporty for some. I think there was a call there maybe across the radios. Hey, don't pit, because the whole field pretty much checked up and was starting to make that left and then decided to go back the other direction. Miles is going to keep him out one more time. DeBrown has been glued to the bumper of the 24 here pretty much this entire run that they have been up front. Cody Harris sitting in that third place spot. Fuller's now back to sixth. Chad Coleman fifth. So some names here. Again, championship contenders going to have to decide who do you come down pit road with. And if it's not your teammates, do you have anybody you trust? Will they wait for you if you have that little bit of a hiccup, slide through the box, have a little bit of an issue? Either way, everybody's electing to stay out here as we work as to come back to the stripe. 15 laps to go.
Yeah, a couple of comments about the dynamic of this racing for these drivers. One, some of the drivers are in a team communication channel. They can talk to other drivers with them. And additionally, they can say something in sim to tell people that they're pitting. That's the compensation for the real world, where the drivers stick their hand out the window to let them know they're pitting, or their spotters talk to each other. Here in the sim, they can send a note to the rest of the drivers paying attention, pitting this time, and so on. Ideally, you're going to look and strategize to pit with the cars around you, where when you pull off, maybe one will go left, favor left, go down by the inside wall, and the other will go right. So if you have different stopping speeds, you don't run each other over. When you pit in these circumstances, Sean, it's for all in peril, because drivers are going to try and get everything they can to get to pit road, and that sometimes leads into collisions going to pit road. We'll see cars over in the grass.
It certainly is a factor here, as for the first time tonight, every car single file. That is certainly a sign of things to come. Either half this field's going to pit or everybody's in fuel conservation mode. And again, I don't think you can make it the rest of the way around here as they work, come back to the stripe to take 13 to go. And everybody's starting to give each other a little bit of room as they roll off into 3 and 4. And it's we say, hey, it's this lap, and then they surprise us to stick out. And here comes the crew, led by the charge of Stephen Miles. Justin Fuller's going to stay out. He's going to get each other work with him. Bobby Wetzel stays out, and Stephen Miles brings Cody Harris. And so far, these pit stops look like they're staying relatively tame, Kevin, as everybody comes to the attention of their crew.
20 cars peel off that time, and I see every single car getting into their box. Nobody had any calamities there, so an outstanding job done by the Cooks Landscape Cup Series drivers here for pit batch number 1. We're going to see it again when Justin Fuller, EJ O'Rourke, Bobby Wetzel, and those who are still out on the racetrack come by. Here, it's imperative that you get a good pit stop and try to connect with the cars that got out. And some of them did not do a good job. We're going to have a couple batches coming off as here comes the leaders around turn 4. Will they duck in this time by? And they will.
Oh, Fuller's on full lockup. I don't think he's going to make pit road speed. That looked like that car was four-wheel slide, and he was coming in hot. Wetzel, Macklin, Donaldson, Dalton, Glazer, Doug Roth all come down pit road to the attention of their crew. Brian Wortman's coming down and bringing that group in. But now, Stephen Miles has got about 8 cars gathered up here. This is Kevin DeBrown, Chad Coleman, Nelson Rivera, Cody Harris, and David Schildhouse, and Eric Arnold are going to cycle out your leaders as we'll see Justin Fuller. They are back off of pit road and rolling here to get caught back up, but they are going to be not up to speed. And you see Stephen Miles starting to mount the challenge on that outside. This is all going to come to a blend here at the end of turn number 2.
Yeah, only one car I saw, the 43 of Doug Roth, get a little sideways, make contact, but everybody else was able to have a relatively clean pit stop. Execution-wise, you see these cars who had one lap to get up to speed. They're going to pick up Justin Fuller and the 41 of EJ O'Rourke from the second group. They certainly did the best job, and of course they were the first 2 cars to go to pit road from that second group, and they blended right somewhere in the middle. The 30 of Macklin picked up. It's really when you get back to Bobby Wetzel, who is in the 9 car being pushed by the 91, that they're at risk of being broken off as Well, what did we expect? It was going to break this field into separate little packs. And I think maybe this last four with Wetzel, the 91, the 19, and the 13, they're going to join in and become part of this lead pack. Mission accomplished for them.
Yeah, look at that run they got catching up to the back half here of the field. And Macklin thought he was going to go up here and hitch a ride, but there was just too much momentum on the roll there. So no harm, no foul. Maybe not the perfect execution on pit road, but it didn't turn into anything. They are going to get caught back up with this lead pack. So what is that? That makes, let me take a look here just to confirm. Yep, that's 14. David Comstock. So a 14-card lead group here as they work across the stripe to take 10 to go at Talladega, all being led single file here by Stephen Miles. Kevin, another a notable here to talk about is Mark Jorgensen Jr. He is leading pack number 2 back there in 15th. He's got Thomas George, Joey Tatina, Robert Fairley III, Ron Holyfield, Bentley Glaser, and others all back here in this second pack. And it doesn't look like they're making a whole lot of progress and actually losing time to the rear bumper of the 13 in front of them.
Yeah, for a moment there, I thought David Comstock was going to drop off this group. He was at the bumper of Tyler Dalton, and it almost looked like they made a little incidental contact on the entry to turn 1, and he dropped off. Fortunately for him, he was able to pick up a little bit of that draft and suck back up, or he would have dropped back. And you're right, the 88 is looking for a caution at this point. I don't believe those few cars running back there will be able to drive up, and we're seeing for the first time with 9 laps to go, Bobby Wetzel leading the charge for that outside lane. They are hauling the mail here on this outside run.
Yeah, that momentum has certainly started to pick up. The tempo of this race starting to climb as we're under 10 to go, and they're going to have to navigate some lap traffic here. That lap traffic's going to go deep to the outside, at least a corner exit, but Wetzel's going to have to bring that crew on that outside group through there, right there as they work through the tri-oval. No harm, no foul, but that outside line, we've definitely started to see some runs materialize. And that could be something that's going to play into this before it's all wrapped up here at Talladega. Meanwhile, back up front, Stephen Miles has been in strong control of this race for the last 30 laps or so. Had a really good finish last night, but again, not anything that would translate here tonight to the Cooks Landscape Group Cup Series. And looking to back up a checker flag with another one. But again, 8 to go here, and that might as well be 800 laps. Anything could happen here before it's all said and done. DeBrown, Coleman, Rivera, Harris, your top 5 as we go back and look at that fight. Back here with Mark Jorgensen Jr. He's got Thomas George, Jatina, and Yoakum and crew all back here. That's right, not Yoakum, but Roth, Glaser and crew. But I tell you what, they are quickly losing time. So unless a caution were to come out, Mark Jorgensen Jr. is not going to be a repeat winner here in the Cooks Landscape Group Cup Series. Out front, though, Stephen Miles continues to lead, 7 to go.
Yeah, there's a car that jumped out of line there. The 30, you see him in the blue car going down the back straightaway, and Bobby Wetzel not going to be his friend and go up and join him as Macklin out of line. But if there's one car in that group that I would circle from a super speedway prowess, it is that number 30 car, Brian Macklin. We don't see him very often here. Comes out sporadically, and this is just his forte. There is something about Macklin's and super speedways that they know how to get the job done. And that 30 car jumped out and found a friend. The 23 of Joe Hudson tucked in on the back bumper. Joe currently running in the 29th position, but is going to play a factor here in this top group. As we get down to it, we've got 6 to go here at Talladega.
Miles, Brown continue bumper to bumper. I don't know if you could fit a penny between those two cars all the way down the backstretch. The 93 pushing the 24 for, man, a good at least the last 20 laps or so. And those two have certainly found what works best for them. As Miles has been doing something a little unique, and I don't know what to think of it. He's offsetting to Brown just a little bit through the corner, almost like letting the run die off and stall out a little bit. That keeps him back to the bumper of DeBrown. We'll see if he does it again here as they work 5 to go. down off into 1 and 2. And Miles right there just pokes out just a little bit. Maybe he's got a little something learned up in these next-gen cars, knowing where maybe he's breaking that arrow a little bit, trying to stall out that run. But I don't think that's going to be what wins him the race here tonight. And if you're the leader at the 2 to go, the 1 to go, and you're in the wrong spot most of the time, winners of this race comes from the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th on back, just because of the monster drafts that can happen, not only just at this racetrack as a whole, but specifically with these cars. We saw Eric Arnold out there. He was making a hard charge on that outside line. That outside line fell apart as they come across the stripe here. That's 4 to go, and he went from about 3rd to 8th in about half a lap and was able to settle in. But now it is pretty much a single car run here throughout the entire top 10. Kevin, we're about 3.5 laps before we see the checkered flag. Pending any cautions, who's your pick?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I don't know how you actually pick somebody in the middle of this, but if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go with the 95 of Cody Harris. I have to say, we saw the drivers make their run off of turn 2, gain the momentum, and then they stall when they get over to turn 4, but it parlayed the 31 of Eric Arnold into an 8th place finish. But it keeps breaking the field up, and it's a rather interesting dynamic that we're seeing. We saw the leader jump out of line. I think that has a little bit to do with engine temperatures. The 93 tucked in behind the 24. Every once in a while, they got give a little air to the nose of the 93, or the car would overheat. I wonder if that's a symbiotic relationship between those two drivers, the 24 pulling out so he can cool the engine off of his pusher in the 93.
Cody Harris sitting right there in that 5th place spot. He looked actually to the outside down the backstretch. I'm sorry, say that again.
The car stopped on the apron over there, the 6 car.
It's Thomas George. Not sure what to make of that. Just a complete stop. Hopefully that does not bring the caution out. Meanwhile, they're going to come down to the stripe here. It's going to be 2 to go. Stephen Miles to Brown, Coleman, Rivera, Cody Harris, and I tell you what, I was going to call the 95 as the potential winner. He's sitting in a really good spot right there. And although he's going to have to deal with Eric Arnold and Co on that outside line, it won't be for long, and he's going to be in the perfect spot to make a huge run down that long sweeping tri-oval. So if I got to pick somebody different, I'm looking at the 10 car of David Schildhouse. He's riding around right now, showed some flashes of speed, knows he can get up front quickly. Right now sitting in that 10th place spot. We'll see how this all shakes out as George is still sitting on the apron down there. Not quite sure what that's about. Nonetheless, green flag's going to stay out. Stephen Miles is going to bring him all the way through the tri-oval. Kevin, we're about to see the white flag.
Single file, top 4, 5th place, running side by side. Push of Eric Arnold. He's got the 30 of Macklin lined up. They're down on the door of the other drivers down on the bottom. If you're going to make your move from that 3rd, 4th, 5th position, now's the time off of turn number 2. Although some drivers will tell you out of turn 4 is when they want to make their move. Everybody tightens up going down the backstretch. It's going to be a drag race to the finish.
Action's heating up here. Half a lap to go. Stephen Miles down on the bottom. DeBrown, Coleman, Rivera. They're single file right now, but they will not be there for long. Fuller's going to take Schildhouse. Cody Harris is going to get collected. Stephen Miles is going to lead, continued all the way down here on the stripe. Kevin DeBrown glued to the bumper. Now going to look to the high line. Chad Coleman right there with him, but DeBrown, he's going to pop out and going to be your victor here at Talladega.
Yeah, DeBrown needs to look in his rearview mirror and give the high sign to the 41 of EJ O'Rourke, because EJ just actually cemented that for the 93. It was really just who had the best pusher to the line, and DeBrown pulled out at the perfect time, and the Units Toyota of EJ O'Rourke glued on the back and shoved him to the victory over Stephen Miles. What a disappointment to lead all those laps and lose it in the last 100 yards.
Yeah, we talked about that, about 5 to go, and being in that 2nd place spot is just not ideal when it comes down to it. And also not ideal situation for Cody Harris and Justin Fuller. They're going to finish 13th and 14th respectively, and I imagine some heated debate between those two. Either way, Kevin DeBrown, your winner here tonight at Talladega for the Cooks Landscape Group Cup Series. Going to give a little bump to the 88. We're going to step aside and talk to our top three. It's a post-race coverage. You're watching Turn 1. Kevin DeBrown burning it down here on the front stretch at Talladega. We'll quickly talk to the driver who finished P2 here tonight. That's Stephen Miles. Stephen, congratulations on a strong run here, but I know a little bit of heartbreak there in the helmet of the 24 as you were coming down the tri-oval and saw DeBrown pop out.
Oh, no, there was no heartbreak, man. It was really pretty much I kind of owed him sticking there with me for the last 20-something laps and going through green flag pit stops. And I mean, if I was in this position, I'd do the same thing, just keep pushing, keep myself in position to where I could capitalize. And I knew that run was going to come. I know it was going to come on the back stretch or the front stretch, but I didn't want to throw a block on him since he helped me out so much. And I wanted to just drag race right there, but I mean, I knew he was going to get it. You never want to be the first car coming out of turn 4, and I was just thinking about points day, get a good finish. These races are crapshoot, a lot of wrecks or whatever like that, but I mean, we had a pretty good, clean run right now.
Stephen, I know, it being very humble here tonight, led a bunch of laps. We saw you really kind of dominate that bottom line, but we also saw you take the top line at some points here tonight to make some moves. And when it came down to it, and maybe you had those 5 laps back, is there anything different you would have done? It looked like you were just as strong on the outside as you were on the inside. Did you have a preferred place to be on track tonight?
No, I was just trying some things out. I get bored sometimes. I just want to see how big of a run I can get and test some things out in case I got to use it later on in the race. But right there, single file, if I go to the outside, I'm pretty sure everybody's going to stay on the bottom. So it's hard not having no teammates and you don't got nobody to stick with you. So I appreciate Brown being a teammate for me, and he deserved to win. And I mean, I wouldn't lose to anybody but him since he helped me so much the last 25 laps. Put me in a good position in the points. That's all we really worried about is a good points day, especially at Talladega. Make it out of here with a good top 3, top 2 finish, and I mean, it was a battle, but we're trying to win the war around here, so it's all good.
Stephen Miles thinking the long game here. Stephen, we appreciate you taking the time. Congratulations on that P2. We'll be talking to you next time.
Thank you.
And with that, we will kick it on over to Kevin, who's going to talk to our winner, Kevin DeBrown, in Victory Lane. Kevin?
Yeah, let's pick Kevin up and talk to him down here in Victory Lane. He's all smiles. Said, Kevin, I got to say to you, somewhere in the middle of this race, I said, there's a driver that's been knocking on the door to get himself a victory. And, well, here you are in Victory Lane at Talladega. And what a last lap move. Outstanding textbook play. Take us through your turn 4 to the checkered.
Oh my God, it's about time. We've been due one, I think, for a while. We've been having speed, especially since the playoffs started. I don't know, coming out of turn 4, the whole plan was gonna try to stay behind Stephen Miles until obviously the tri-oval, which happened, and I was hoping to bring my teammate Chad with me, but I was getting way too hot, so I had to check up. I think I was like 305, 310 by the time we entered the tri-oval, so by that time I had to pull out because I thought I was gonna blow up. And thankfully EJ just pushed me there, and I mean, he had no choice, but yeah, we crossed the line first.
Yeah, I had to wonder if you didn't pull out, EJ was coming with the help of Schildhouse, and he might have actually gone to the outside and snuck away with the win, but fortuitous for you, he got to the back bumper and pushed it through. You've had the speed over the last part of the season since the summer run. What's changed? What's given you that extra momentum lately?
Honestly, I gotta say we've been me and Chad, we've been running a lot of NIS races, and that's the practice there has been helping a lot. As before, I haven't really been doing as much practice as I should, but putting in the time obviously is translating to getting better finishes. So unfortunately, I think we go to Dover next week, so we don't do NIS there, but usually I run pretty good at Dover, so hopefully we're hoping for a good finish there.
Take us through tonight's conditions. We saw that every once in a while, Stephen Miles, while you were following, you would pull ahead. I'm assuming that was to cool the car off, but was it a relatively tame race from your standpoint? You seemed to be up front most of the night, and I ran NAS this week, so I know what the conditions were, but take it through your helmet. What did you see out there?
Definitely it worked the best if you had at least 3 cars on the bottom lane who were comfortable enough to push each other. As before, there was no like pushing the pusher, but I feel like now you have to push the pusher to be fast. And that's what I did with Cody, and that's what I did with Chad behind me. Basically, whenever the third car in lane would push me, I would lock with Steven for a good bit, then let it get hot. And thankfully, Steven, he was giving me the lane to cool down my engine, because if he wasn't doing that, I don't think the bottom lane would have worked at all. But we just all worked together, and it worked out in the end.
Were you in communication during the race, or just doing it by, common sense of knowing what drivers were going to do from their behaviors?
Well, luckily, obviously I'm teammates with Chad, but Cody and Steven, obviously we don't talk to each other in Discord. So luckily they smart enough and they understand what we were trying to do, and we all just stayed single file, and we all just wanted to be there at the end. I know we're all in playoffs here, and we all just want to get a good point tonight.
Yeah, my imagination was the bottom line dominant tonight. It seemed like the top lane could generate some runs, but once they got up somewhere near the top 5, they seemed to have stalled out, especially off turn 4.
Definitely. Like I said, I think it's just all a matter if you can get a good 3-4 car tandem going, and especially if you do it, because I noticed the third groove doesn't work at all. We tried that in NIS and it wasn't working at all, and obviously it didn't work here. But if we could just keep going, the top line should work.
They reset the points at 2,000, and coming away the victor here, you go to the top of the podium. Do you know that you're the first driver to lead the points beyond a Fuller and a Schildhouse for the season? How's that feel?
It took the playoffs to do it. They're going to be hard to beat, man. Both of them. They're going to be really hard to beat this season. Schildhouse is on a tear, and same with Fuller. Hopefully, we're going to try to beat them with speed, but they're really fast, obviously. Hopefully they'll make a mistake, but they're pretty good, so we'll see.
Yeah, you're no slouch yourself. Don't count yourself out. And I know that you've got the speed and you're building the consistency, and it's the right time to peak. And here you are pulling away the victory at Talladega. And we're going to look at that 93 car next week at Dover and expect a good run out of you. Congratulations on the win. Anybody want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, of course. You guys are putting on a show. Can't wait to go watch it. Wesley, if you're painting a beautiful paint scheme, WBD Guidecast, check them out on Instagram. Racing Pride coming on this season, hopefully future seasons. And yeah, Sim 500 putting on the show.
There you go. Our winner tonight, Kevin DeBrown. He pulls down the victory at Talladega by inches over Stephen Miles. It was an exciting race to the finish, and well, we're going to have a moment to talk to EJ O'Rourke, who had a hand in deciding the victory here tonight. Finished third, and let's see if we can get EJ pulled up. The Units Toyota driver here, EJ O'Rourke, my man. How was that for an exciting finish coming off of turn 4?
Yeah, exciting finish there, but I'll tell you what, this package is terrible. This is not fun. This is tough to build a run, tough to get track position, and I don't know. This was terrible.
Yeah, but you coming off the corner, you were following. I think you were running in the 9th position to end up with a 3rd. You saw the action right in front with the 51 and the 95. Could you tell what happened there?
Yeah, you have to go for it at some point. And Fuller had a run, and he jumped up and went with Schildhouse, which I don't blame him, because Schildhouse was mowing, and Cody Harris kind of came up on Fuller there, and they kind of made contact, and I still had a run. And if you had to run, you got to go for it. Coming off 4, you never know what can happen there. And I don't know. I wonder if I didn't go with Kevin, if I jumped up top of 3 on his outside of him and Miles, if I would have possibly won that thing. But I don't know. I'm glad for Kevin. He's a good friend of mine. He's a good kid, and I'll take a 3rd.
Yeah, I was watching that dynamic, and I wondered whether you were going to tuck in behind him. If he did not, pull up with the help of David Schildhouse behind you. I wondered at the beginning of the tryover whether you were going to get pushed to the win. You had the several lap down car 07 to your outside. I don't even know if you were aware that he was out there, but I don't know. Third place finish from ninth coming off the backstretch. That's not a bad night's work.
Yeah, anytime you can finish top 5 in this league, it's a good day. I mean, this unit's Toyota was a Camry was fast, as fast as you can fit on the internet. But it's a good time, and I love this league. You got good people in this deal, and I'm just happy to be here, and I enjoy running with these guys, and it's good for Kevin. I know he tries hard to win these things, and I would love to win one of these things too. It's been a while, so we'll try again.
Well, you got a couple more chances at it. We go to Dover next week and then roll into Phoenix, which I think might be a high side track, and I know a guy who likes the high side. Congratulations on the finish tonight. Anybody want to give a shout out to?
Hey, Kevin, just want to thank you guys and everyone for broadcasting this deal, and Joey Katina, everyone here at the Cup Series who puts this deal on, and it's just fun. The units, Toyota Camry is fast. We're going to Martinsville this weekend with the real units, Toyota Tundra, so we'll see how the 56 can do on Friday night. So it's our last race of the year, so we'll see how we can do.
Yeah, good luck at the paperclip, and send us some photos there of your participation. It looks like every time you go to the track, you have a total blast.
Absolutely, it's a good time with those boys.
There you go, EJ O'Rourke, the unit's Toyota, finishes third tonight. It was DeBrown, Miles, O'Rourke, Coleman, and Schildhouse, your top 5. Rivera, Comstock, Wetzel, Arnold, and Macklin rounding out your top 10. Sean, I thought that was a pretty entertaining race. Rather tame, I thought. I thought there would be more of a charge. Maybe that little mix-up where the 95 and the 51 went to the high side at the same time, clogged the outside runs, and that really left it to the top 5, and, well, DeBrown timed it perfectly and got the win here tonight.
Yeah, perfect execution is the name of the game, and you've got to be perfect from start to finish, but you got to be there at the finish to be able to finish it. And well, DeBrown pulled it off. And looking at the point standings, it's DeBrown in the lead. Stephen Miles, David Schildhouse, Chad Coleman, Tyler Dalton's going to walk away here 5th in the points. The driver, the biggest loser of all of this really is going to be Justin Fuller. He was up there at the very top. He's going to lose 8 spots. He's going to have some ground to make up. Mark Jorgensen, 9th, Bentley Glacier, Jose Gonzalez. So it's going to be a very interesting story as we roll through the next couple weeks, as we're starting to see the end of this season on the horizon. Well, Kevin, I think we're going to wrap it up there. I think this is, again, like you mentioned, another great call, another great race out of the Sim 500 group, and next week I don't think will be any exception.
Yeah, I mean, 75 laps of action, 2 cautions on the night, an outstanding job by these guys. Green flag pit stops, exciting conglomerate where they all came back together. You really had no idea who was going to win, and in the end, it was Kevin DeBrown pulling down the victory. Congratulations to him. I know these guys, they work so hard every week, Sean, to try and get a chance to win, and when you get one, it's got to be really special, and Kevin and team should be celebrating this win here tonight, because he did everything he needed to do to put himself in position, and he won by inches here at Talladega.
Speaking of the win, we're going to roll this broadcast into victory lane and call it a night. On behalf of the league admins, that's Kevin England. I'm Sean Fitz. Tune in next time for more racing action right here on Turn 1. Good night, everybody.